Long-term financial goals can sometimes seem so big that they feel almost unattainable, especially when we are just getting started on the road to financial independence. Many people in the financially independent, retired early community have found it helpful to break down the large goal of becoming financially independent into smaller, more manageable levels. This approach not only makes it easier to track progress and stay motivated throughout the journey, but it also helps overcome the initial hurdle of starting to chip away at what can feel like an overwhelming mountain of a task. In this explanation, we will explore what can be considered the 10 levels of financial independence and provide a hypothetical example of how someone could progress from the first level to the top level within a single lifetime. The 10 levels of financial independence are as follows. Level 0 is financial dependence. Level 1 is financial solvency. Level 2 is financial stability. Level 3 is debt freedom. Level 4 is coasting financial independence, sometimes also called freedom from employer or barista financial independence. Level 5 is financial security. Level 6 is financial flexibility. Level 7 is financial independence. Level 8 is financial freedom, and finally Level 9 is financial abundance. Level 0, financial dependence, occurs when a person's debt payments and living expenses exceed their own income. At this stage, an individual relies on someone else, often parents, a partner, or external support to cover bills, food, housing, and other necessities. This is the starting point for nearly everyone, including children who have no bills of their own but depend entirely on family. It is labeled Level 0 because there is effectively no financial independence at this point. Level 1, financial solvency, is reached when someone can meet all debt payments and living expenses using only their own income, without needing outside help. They are current on bills and can handle their financial commitments independently. Level 2, financial stability, builds on solvency by adding an emergency fund. Having cash set aside for unexpected events provides a buffer and reduces stress during difficult times. Level 3 is debt freedom. Definitions vary slightly depending on the source. For some, it means being completely debt-free, including the mortgage. For others, it means eliminating high-interest debts such as credit cards, while possibly keeping lower-interest debts like student loans or a mortgage. A common middle ground is paying off all consumer debts, credit cards, car loans, student loans, while retaining only the mortgage if one exists. The key is removing the burden of debt payments that drain monthly cash flow. Level 4, coasting financial independence, also known as freedom from employer, is an important milestone. At this stage, a person has saved enough that they could, if they chose, switch from a high-paying but stressful or unsatisfying job to a lower-paying but more enjoyable or less demanding role. The savings accumulated earlier in life, especially during high-earning and frugal years, would continue to grow through compound interest. Eventually, that nest egg would be large enough to support retirement needs without requiring significant additional contributions. In essence, the hard work and disciplined saving done early allow the individual to coast toward retirement while still earning enough to cover current living costs. Level 5, financial security, is achieved when passive cash flow from investments covers basic survival expenses. Survival expenses include only essentials: food, water, shelter, including utilities, basic clothing, basic transportation, and related insurance. This level does not account for discretionary spending such as subscriptions, entertainment, or dining out. It provides genuine security because even if a job is lost, the individual could cover the bare necessities of life using investment income alone. While it may not support a luxurious lifestyle, it offers peace of mind and a safety net. Level 6, financial flexibility, takes security one step further. Here, investment cash flow can support a more comfortable lifestyle, assuming a flexible spending plan that adjusts with market performance. In good market years, slightly more can be withdrawn, and in down years, spending is reduced. One common way to measure this level is reaching approximately half of the full financial independence target. Using the well-known 4 rule as a reference, this often equates to roughly 5 times annual expenses. It is close to full independence, but not quite there yet. Level 7 is full financial independence. This is typically defined using the 4 rule, which states that if someone has saved about 25 times their annual expenses, they can safely withdraw 4 of the portfolio each year, adjusted for inflation, with a high probability of the money lasting 30 years or more. At this point, investment returns can sustain the person's current lifestyle indefinitely, allowing them to retire if they wish without relying on employment income. Level 8, financial freedom, goes beyond basic independence. At this stage, cash flow from investments exceeds the amount needed for financial independence and also covers additional life goals. These goals differ for everyone but might include frequent international travel, relocating to a dream location, pursuing expensive hobbies, or supporting family members. The portfolio generates enough passive income to fund both necessities and meaningful wants without depleting the principal. Level 9 Financial Abundance represents the highest level. Here, investment cash flow is substantially more than a person could reasonably spend, even after fulfilling all goals from Level 8. It would require deliberate effort to deplete the resources. One way to conceptualize this is having roughly 3 times the financial freedom number. This buffer provides protection against severe market downturns. For example, a 50 drop in portfolio value would still leave 1.5 times the amount needed for the enhanced lifestyle of Level 8. At this point, money is no longer a limiting factor for most practical purposes. These levels are not entirely original. They represent a synthesis of ideas discussed in many personal finance articles, blogs, and communities over the years. They serve as helpful guideposts rather than rigid formulas. Some people prefer to break certain levels into even smaller stages, for instance, dividing debt freedom into high-interest debt elimination, non-mortgage debt elimination, and total debt freedom. Coasting financial independence can similarly be split into enough savings to survive versus enough to maintain current lifestyle. Financial independence itself can be viewed in stages: survivable independence, lean financial independence, and full lifestyle independence. Customizing the framework to fit personal circumstances can make the journey even more motivating. To illustrate how someone might progress through these levels in one lifetime, consider the hypothetical example of John and Jane, a recently married couple both aged 23. Each earns $20 per hour, giving them a combined annual income of $83,200 assuming no overtime. They are hardworking, did well in school, and chose their jobs thoughtfully. Like most people, they began at level 0 as financial dependents. During college, they accumulated debt: $5,000 in credit card debt, $35,000 in car loans, and $60,000 in student loans. Once they started working, their income allowed them to stay current on all payments without external help, moving them to level 1 financial solvency. Their annual living expenses at this time are $48,000. To reach level 2 financial stability, they need an emergency fund. Following the 10-level framework, they aim for 3 to 6 months of survival expenses. They estimate their bare-bones survival costs at $3,000 per month, covering food, shelter, basic transportation, clothing, and insurance. A 3-month fund would require $9,000, while a 6-month fund would need $18,000. Given that their jobs feel secure and the economy appears stable, they decide a 3-month fund of $9,000 is sufficient for now. After accounting for minimum debt payments, $100 on the credit, $550, $78 on the cars, and $621, $83 on student loans, they initially have about $1,660, $72 per month available. Motivated by the idea of early financial independence, they look for ways to accelerate progress. They begin working overtime, adding roughly $1,300 per month in extra income. They also sell both cars for $30,000 total, use $5,000 to pay off the credit card completely, spend $10,000 on reliable used cars bought with cash, and apply the remaining $15,000 directly to the car loans. This aggressive approach pays off quickly. Within 3 months, they fully fund the $9,000 emergency fund and have extra money to attack the car loans. The car loan balance drops to about $18,423. They then direct their full surplus of approximately $360 per month plus the original minimum payment toward the remaining car debt, eliminating it in just 6 more months. 9 months into their journey, they are free of credit card and car debt with a solid emergency fund in place. Next, they focus on the student loans, which now stand at around $53,263 after continued minimum payments. With no more car payments, their monthly surplus rises to over $3,600. They throw this entire amount at the student loans and clear them completely in 13 months. In total, after only 22 months, John and Jane achieve level 3 debt freedom with a fully funded emergency fund and over $4,200 per month now available to invest. They move on to level 4, coasting financial independence. Assuming they want to be prepared for retirement at age 65, they calculate what is needed. Starting at age 24-25, they have about 40 years for their investments to grow. With 3 average annual inflation, their $48,000 current expenses would grow to roughly $166,000 per year by retirement age. Using the 4 rule, they would need approximately $15 million at retirement to be fully independent. However, for coasting, they only need enough saved now so that compound growth over 40 years reaches that target. At an assumed average return of 10 before inflation, they determine that saving about $10,000 would be sufficient. With their new monthly investment rate of $4,233, they reach this coasting target in roughly 2 years. Just 3 years and 10 months after starting, they could theoretically switch to more satisfying, lower-paying work while still heading toward a comfortable retirement. Their true goal, however, is full financial independence, so they continue working and investing aggressively. Level 5 financial security is reached when investment income covers their $36,000 annual survival expenses. Thanks to consistent saving and market growth, they hit this milestone with over $367,000 invested after a little more than 4 additional years, or about 7 years and 3 months total from the start. At age 30, they could theoretically live on investment income alone if needed, providing real security against job loss. Financial flexibility level 6 comes next. Using the approximation of 5 times annual expenses, roughly $600,000 without inflation adjustment, or about $855,000 when accounting for inflation, they achieve this around 9 to 11 years and 9 months into the journey, depending on whether inflation is factored in. Continuing their disciplined approach, John and Jane reach full financial independence level 7 at the 25 times expenses mark after approximately 14 years without inflation adjustment or 18 years and 3 months with inflation. At this point, they have the option to retire comfortably while maintaining their lifestyle. If they choose to push further, they could aim for level 8 financial freedom, where investments cover not only independence, but also additional meaningful goals such as travel or relocation. Level 9 financial abundance would provide an even larger buffer, roughly 3 times the freedom number, ensuring resilience even in major market declines, and leaving excess income far beyond what they could spend. Throughout this journey, many people notice their spending habits naturally evolve. As freedom, time with loved ones, and mobility become more valued than material possessions, expenses often stabilize or even decrease. This can offset the effects of inflation and sometimes accelerate progress more than expected. That is one reason why tracking both inflation-adjusted and non-adjusted timelines can be insightful. The 10-level system is flexible and meant to serve as motivation and a tracking tool rather than a strict prescription. Whether someone follows it exactly, combines it with other approaches like Dave Ramsey's baby steps, or creates even finer subdivisions, the most important element is consistent action, intentional saving, and investing over time. Compound growth, when paired with disciplined behavior, can transform what once seemed like an impossible dream into an achievable reality within one working lifetime. By breaking the massive goal of financial independence into these clear, progressive stages, it becomes possible to celebrate smaller victories along the way, maintain motivation during challenges, and steadily build the knowledge, habits, and resources needed to reach true financial freedom. The journey looks different for everyone, but the underlying principles living below one's means, eliminating high-cost debt, building safety nets, and harnessing the power of long-term investing remain consistent and powerful.